Good afternoon everybody and welcome to the Community Outcomes meeting today, the 27th of January. This is a regular quarterly meeting that we hold in public with the Chief Constable to allow the public to both understand the work that West Yorkshire Police is doing on your behalf, but also to understand the scrutiny role of the Mayor and myself. The papers that are going to be discussed today are online, so if you want to have a look at those as we're discussing those papers and asking the questions that we have decided to ask, then that's something that you'll be able to do. So firstly, I'm going to introduce myself and then go around the table for those people who are presenting today to introduce themselves. So my name's Alison Lowe, I'm the Deputy Mayor for Policing and Crime.
Hi, afternoon, I'm Rob Forrest, Head of Policing and Crime at the Combined Authority.
John Robbins, the Chief Constable.
Afternoon, Rob McCoubrey, Assistant Chief Constable for Operational Support.
Sarah Jones, Temporary Assistant Chief Constable, responsible for crime and criminal justice.
Bush Hughes, Chief Superintendent, Head of Corporate Services.
Ben Ryder, Superintendent of Policing.
Thank you. And as people are speaking, they'll move around so that they're in the view of the camera. We have apologies from the Mayor, Tracy Brabin. Any apologies from your side?
No, thank you.
The items that we're discussing today align with the new police and crime plan and support the safer places and thriving communities theme of the plan. Item 2 is notes of the previous meeting held on the 23rd of October, but due to leave, those minutes have yet to be signed off, and so they will be form part of the next set of papers, but they'll be on our website, so if anybody wants to have a look at them in the next couple of weeks, they should be there, but there was nothing contentious in those minutes. So item 3 is the mayoral and Chief Constable announcements. I'd like to go first because it was with great pride that the Mayor and I were notified that our Chief Constable, Sir John Robbins, was knighted in the King's New Year's Honours List. And that is in celebration and recognition of over 30 years of dedicated policing to West Yorkshire Police, but it's also an acknowledgement of the contribution that West Yorkshire Police makes on a wider footprint to national policing via the National Police Air Service, through our contributions in the North East Counter-Terrorism Unit and the Regional Organised Crime Unit, not to mention, of course, our the work that we're doing in Wakefield, the Regional Scientific Support Unit, which is a groundbreaking unit that's supporting digital and forensics nationally. So, congratulations.
Thank you, that's very kind of you, thank you.
The other announcements, a bit more prosaic, are that the Serious Violence Co-Production consultation has now ended, and the team are pulling together the views of the public, and we will have hopefully the strategy at the end of May. But before that, we're going to be asking the public to bid for the People's Fund, and the People's Fund is that Proceeds of Crime Act monies that the police give. To this instance, it's from £100 up to £10,000, or 3 groups or organisations can bid up to £30,000. There'll be £100,000 per district, and the theme is serious violence and how our communities can work with us to eliminate serious violence. So please go onto our website to have a look at how you can put in a bid for that money. It's a 2-pronged process this time. You'll put in your bid, there'll be a sifting process which will involve members of the communities who have been trained, and then we're going to have a process of participatory budgeting where members of the communities will decide who gets that money, and that's why it's the People's Fund. So we're very excited about this new innovation, and we hope that the public will back the fund by bidding for it and then supporting those groups that get that money in due course. The other thing that we wanted to report back was on the police preset for 2026 and 27. We wanted to thank everyone who had taken part in the preset consultation and tell you that so far we've received 3,356 responses, and that's our online survey and face-to-face. So we've had nearly 2,500 survey completed online and 870 in-person responses. This is more than double the number that we received last year, so the Mayor and I are really delighted at the support from the public. So far, just under 57% of the public that completed the survey are saying yes to a £15 increase at band D. The vast majority of people in West Yorkshire are band A to C, so won't pay £15. It'll be about 22 pence a week, up to about 26 pence a week. And we're going to the Police and Crime Panel next Friday to put that request to the panel to agree the £15, and hopefully we'll be able to report back in due course. So those are all the announcements. Anything from West Yorkshire, please?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, so we're going to go on to item 5, which is serious and organised crime.
Sarah?
Yep, Derek, brilliant. So we don't normally do a big intro, we just dive into the questions, if that's okay. So question 1 is on page 5. On the rise in exploitation threats through organised crime and looking to the forthcoming independent inquiry into grooming gangs, can you please say more about how West Yorkshire Police are coordinating with the National Crime Agency's Operation Beacon Port and how this is helping to provide justice for survivors of sexual exploitation?
Of course, so Operation Beacon Port is the review of group-based child sexual abuse and exploitation, and it's a review of police and CPS no further action decisions. So they requested a first tranche of data, which we called tranche 1, and that was in relation to investigations that had 2 suspects offending against 2 victims. So this looked at every child sexual exploitation crime recorded between January 2010 and March 2025, which met the definition of group-based and significant. So following a national review, 42 West Yorkshire Police cases were selected for the fuller review process. 26 of these cases related to non-recent child sexual exploitation operation names, so they were large investigations which had all been allocated a specific name. The tranche 2 request was received on the 20th of August 2025. Now that changed to incorporate the national definition of group-based offending, which is 1 victim with 2 or more suspects, and it also extended the definition to include all child sexual abuse cases. So as you can understand, that significantly increased the data requests that they were making. We'd started to do the work on that to provide that information when we received notification from NPCC Hydrant, which is a national operation, on the 24th of October, advising that Beacon Port was going to begin a short testing phase of a revised data capture process. I think they were concerned about everybody doing it differently. So they were developing that in collaboration with key partners and 3 forces, which was not included in West Yorkshire. So they asked us to pause that data capture activity with immediate effect. That temporary pause was to allow them to test and validate the new approach, ensure it met the operational needs, and also reflected some feedback that they received in relation to the data that was provided. West Yorkshire Police have not received an update in relation to the tranche 1 submission, and we're still waiting further instruction in relation to the tranche 2 request. But I think what I want to stress here is that has not changed whatsoever our continuing investigation into non-recent child sexual exploitation and abuse. The teams have worked really hard to provide justice to victims. We're over 2,000 years in perpetrator sentences now. So, albeit we continue to work with Beacon Port, there's no pause to the investigative work that we're doing.
Absolutely, and of course there's a big court case ongoing at the moment. Thanks very much for that. On page 11, the report highlights that Bradford, Leeds and Wakefield are national hotspot areas for under 18-year-olds involved in county lines offending. Can you provide an update on Operation Phoenix, and in particular what you're learning from your work with partners such as Catch-22 about young people's involvement in this offending?
Absolutely. So since the establishment of the Phoenix Task Force, which obviously hasn't been in place very well, but since we received the national funding, and we've been able to implement much more robust processes for recording county lines. We've identified that actually the volume of lines that we have is higher than we previously reported. So that has allowed us to continue our focus on the improved processes. That means that the data accurately reflects the true scale of the lines and associated subjects, and more importantly, allows us to properly deal with them. So analysis of the investigated lines indicates that the most harmful are those linked to heroin and crack cocaine. They are also the lines that are most frequently associated with exploitation. Enforcement activity targeting line holders and runners often results in the recovery of weapons, predominantly large machete-style knives from residential addresses. In several cases, individuals targeted during enforcement have been on licence for similar offences or have prior involvement in drug-related activity known to the police. So enforcement days are aimed at line holders do not typically yield significant quantities of drugs. That suggests to us that we've got safe or stash houses, which still remains the preferred operational model for these networks. Investigations conducted by Phoenix demonstrate a really high charge and remand rate for identified line holders, even without the recovery of those drugs, because we go down a conspiracy offence, but that reinforces the effectiveness of the task force's approach. Catch-22 are integrated into the appropriate agencies and policing partners, and they have had positive interaction with referrals to date, but that obviously continues to be a work in progress, and we're very early days into the funding.
Yeah, and I look forward to the event next week where I'll learn more from partners. Yeah. Thank you. On page 20 of the report, looking at the clear whole build initiatives to fight organised crime in the 4 districts, several areas are now reporting that they're moving to the build phase of the project, where local partners collaborate to prevent crime through community resilience projects. Can you update us as to the challenges or opportunities emerging from this next stage of the Clear Whole Build project?
Yes, I know how involved you've been in this as well, Deputy Mayor. So I know that the experience that we have, and certainly speaking with the districts and with the Clear Whole Build locations, that moving towards the phase challenges do tend to come in a few consistent forms. So the first is partner engagement, and I think that's not a willingness, but ultimately the progression initiative in which partners become the lead for the build phase is a new model within West Yorkshire. It was always designed that way, but some local authority partners have found that to be really difficult. They're really committed to the aims of Clear Whole Build, but delivery has been much more of a hybrid approach between agencies, not due to lack of effort or willingness, but just because of the broader constraints that the local authority partners are currently navigating, both in terms of financial and resourcing challenges, along with a lot of other competing demands that exist for them. We also know, this is part of the hold and build model, that where we create a vacuum of SOC nominals, so where we take out those individuals or those gangs following operational intensification, it can lead to opportunities for other OCGs to take hold. So whilst instances of more similar violence or serious organised crime activity within a location can facilitate a move back towards the clear phase, and that creates some confusion amongst partners as to where the process is at and who has responsibility. So we always knew we'd move in and out of the clear phase, but sometimes it's quite difficult for people to get back and understand that moving back into that real enforcement activity, because stock nominals have moved back into the space that we previously created. And then, of course, building trust. So the external partners have forged really strong links within the community, within the Clear Whole Build areas, and community groups are much more willing to come forward and work alongside the police and partners in the community, which is a real positive. And I think we've seen a much stronger relationship, particularly between youth groups who are really building an alliance in the area, so that large funding grants can be applied for to secure that longer term sustainability.
Thank you. We're going to talk about Spotlight next, but I just wonder what the opportunities of Spotlight are in terms of Clear Whole Build and being able to communicate with the people that you're protecting in those 4 areas. Well, it's more than 4 areas because you've got some nearly Clear Whole Build sites as well. Because I was just thinking the opportunity of pushing out those messages, because you can geo-fence those locations. Hare Hills, for example, we know I think it's something like 50% reduction in serious violence in Hare Hills since Community, the Clear Whole Build project, was launched. I suspect people in Hare Hills don't know that. There are lots and lots of other metrics that you could push out using the Spotlight methodology, and I just think that it may be a use of Spotlight that hadn't been considered. But it's a really good way, I think, to, especially in the Clear Whole Build areas where you're relying on the community to be part of the solution. It might give that extra incentive and inspiration to the community that it's worth working more closely with policing partners.
No, I think you're right, and I think we probably do pass that messaging on to those that are engaged with us, don't we, where they come into those community meetings. But I think you're right, Deputy Mayor, getting that out more broadly and then building that consensus to come and more engage with us is definitely a challenge to us. So you'll see through the document, there are some really startling positive results around this sort of work in the areas where we've got this sort of clearly focused approach. And of course, these areas were picked for a reason because they had really challenging high metrics around a number of different areas, not least crime. So you would expect that to be a more acute reduction, as it has been. But I think you're right, getting that messaging beyond just the people who are already engaged with us is probably really valuable.
Yeah, and also those involved in crime, if they're getting the same messages, saying we're there, we're watching, we've got all these ways of catching you, Op Phoenix being one,
Absolutely.
then because we know that when you rolled this out in Kirkgate, there was a dramatic reduction in criminality because you weren't just telling the public to prevent crime, you were telling the criminals that you were there to catch them if they got engaged in crime. So I just think it's got a double whammy potentially.
Absolutely, and as you know, we really carefully check the displacement as well, so we don't push out into those areas that are just around these specific areas. So we do also check that. So yeah, I think that's a really strong message. I think we're doing a media day around Phoenix actually to really push that messaging out. And again, I think we can take a lot of the learning and spotlight into that.
Yeah. So on Spotlight then, just wondered if we could have a bit of an update on the impact on knife crime in Leeds after the festive period. We know that knife-enabled robbery is down, which is great. So just thought it'd be useful for the public to understand how Spotlight is working to drive down knife crime generally.
Absolutely. So as you will know, and obviously you're referring, it was deployed in Leeds City Centre during November and December to bolster ongoing operations, and it worked with the Leeds neighbourhood patrol teams. So its primary objective is making people in Leeds City Centre feel safer, increasing visible policing presence to reassure the public, continuing to tackle knife-enabled robbery, as you've said, which we know that knife crime is down, disrupting and arresting those involved in violence against women and girls, and also tackling antisocial behaviour. So it was deployed on 21 evenings between 6 p.m. and 2 in the morning. In total, 83 arrests were made. They range from serious assault, weapon offences and serious sexual assault to drug possession, recall to prison and outstanding warrants. Intelligence reports were submitted and 12 vehicles were seized. They were either linked to criminality or for other offences in relation to insurance. 18 drug seizures. Spotlight officers also attended 69 live logs, 46 emergency grades. So still making sure that we maintained our policing presence. When comparing crimes in November and December 24 to November and December 25, within that Leeds City Gemlock hotspot, total crime fell 4.4% in November and 7.8% in December. So in the Spotlight hyperlocal hotspot, all crime fell 5% in November and 1.2% in December. But that figure doesn't take into account the amount of extra crimes that were recorded as a result of the proactive policing with the additional officers. So obviously things they came across, things that they were supporting it. In the Leeds City Gemlock hotspot, knife crime and serious violent crime fell 14.7% in November and 2.5% in December. So ASB proxy offences were up 21.3% in the Leeds City Gemlock hotspot in November and stayed the same in December. However, in the hyperlocal hotspot, they dropped 9.1% in November and 14.3% in December. So we've currently been involved in one deployment of the live facial recognition van that plans to develop through January and February. No arrests were made from the technology, but it was a really helpful crime deterrent, which we know is what it can be, and also opened up, as it does, a lot of conversations within the community. So the deployment was in the nighttime economy environment near to the LGBTQ focus venues. Lots of conversations prior to going to make sure that the community really understood what we were doing. And it showed that the tactic was welcomed. It was viewed as a positive and reassuring, as opposed to some of the concerns that we've seen come out more broadly in the media. And we do see it as a valuable tactic in developing intelligence and ensuring that we're targeting the right individuals with facial recognition. So the next steps are to go into our hyperlocal areas and also to work with our close forces. So Manchester deploy theirs on a very regular basis every day, and we're looking to emulate that over here in West Yorkshire and build on the success that it's had. Now that I think, particularly for the facial recognition van, that we have a greater understanding of the community of the benefits that it can give to them.
Yeah, and I saw a lot of really positive social media from the LGBT community, and I speak to Rob Wilson, who runs the Angels that do the the monitoring of the gay quarter on a Friday and Saturday night, and I know they were really pleased.
Oh, good.
So it's good. Brilliant. And it would be remiss of me not to say to you and to the public that since we've last met, we've obviously had our HMIC FRS grading for SOC here in West Yorkshire, which was outstanding. So congratulations to you and the team, and I've passed on my congratulations to Marie Bulber, of course.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I mean, that really is a partnership recognition. There's so much work goes on at tackling SOC at partnership level that, you know, that really is a recognition of the full partnership approach.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll move on then to road safety. And question 1 is on page 9. Refers to performance data on enforcement by team, district and department. How does this data get used internally to ensure road safety activity is undertaken effectively throughout all 5 districts?
Yeah, thanks, Deputy Mayor. I suppose, as you know, we're quite fortunate in a sense that we're a really data-rich force, so we've invested quite heavily in the data warehouse and the opportunities that provides for us. So in essence, we've now got a system whereby local supervisors, local senior leadership team members and local MPT inspectors all have access to that data that can be drilled right down in terms of Fatal 5 activity, enforcement activity, right down to that sort of granular officer level. That can then be overlaid with the new Power BI app that's been developed around KSIs. So essentially bringing those two things together allows us to look at the areas of concern around killed and seriously injured, and then the enforcement activity, with the idea being hopefully that we can be more targeted and laser guided with our enforcement activity around the roads policing side. In terms of sort of organisational scrutiny then, so I obviously chair a local performance meeting with the roads policing resources specifically, and we dial into and drill into those specialist resources in terms of where the enforcement activity is taking place and how much against the Fatal 5 criteria. I think the next step for us really is, in terms of those local performance meetings, is introducing back in a consideration around what that level of activity looks like in each of the 5 districts. So we have done it in the past. We had our local performance meeting last week, and myself and the Deputy Chief Constable raised an action that throughout 2026 we will seek to get the Fatal 5 performance information on the district local performance meetings, so that we can have a look at that. It's obviously a constant balance between a number of other areas that they're looking at, but we will do that throughout this calendar year.
Yeah, and obviously, as chair of the Vision Zero board, if there's anything we can add at that partnership level, then please do ask. And I know that the exec that does more of the operational stuff is keen to be helpful too. So any learning, anything that would, you know, really start to help on that KSI performance, then, you know, you've got an open door.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
So the next page is page 14, and it refers to training modules attended by the RPU. Are there any specific sessions planned in the future around road safety related topics aligned directly to Vision Zero?
The short answer is yes. So obviously under the pillars of Vision Zero, we try to align the roads policing training inputs to give a balance between obviously requiring to upskill them across a number of different cross-portfolio areas in policing. So you'll have seen in the report, you know, safeguarding as an example, some of the VOG agendas. It's really important that we get our roads policing officers those inputs, but equally then very specific inputs around their core roles. So in terms of the upcoming training inputs they're getting, there's inputs arranged around the Motability scheme, which obviously aligns to the safe road users pillar. An input on insecure loads, again this year, specific input around electric vehicles and some of the safety challenges around EVs and potential fire risk, and then some further development inputs as well around the use of the NDM and digital evidence to make sure that the post-collision response is where it needs to be within our roads policing unit. In a broader sense, obviously the wider district training days, we've got an ambition to get some of the Vision Zero elements included in that, so that all officers get that. It's a tricky programme, if you like, because there's so many areas we're trying to cover. So I don't think we're in a position to give any inputs on the 2026 rotation, but that is in the thinking to try and make sure that that's covered in as soon as we can. But reassurance that both the initial training courses and then a module within foundation at the foundation phase does cover the road safety and Vision Zero elements. So
yeah, because I think it's now becoming more embedded, especially now the white paper's out, and hopefully we'll see more Vision Zero activity, not just in policing but across the piece.
Yeah.
So thank you. So question 3, on page 30 it states that Wakefield Vision Zero board partners continue to meet on a regular basis. How frequently are these meetings and when was the last one? I think maybe we're not across it, you see, so that's why we wanted to ask.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I thought maybe there was some suspicions there, but yes, you're right.
Not suspicions, that's a strong word.
That board meeting's been struggling locally in Wakefield since about the end of last summer. That's due to a number of redundancies and issues within the local authority, I'm told. That has been now raised with the local chief exec in terms of the requirement for us to get that formalised board structure back up and running, because it's critical for a number of reasons, which clearly you're very well cited on as the overall West Yorkshire chair for the Vision Zero board. But a bit of a reassurance, having spoken to the lead in Wakefield District CI, Emma Hooks. She is regularly meeting with local authority partners and other partners in respect of the Vision Zero agenda, and the work is progressing. It's just getting that local board back on a sound footing. So I'll keep in linked in with CI Hooks myself and make sure that that is progressed. But as I say, it has been raised to the appropriate level, and hopefully that will get off and running again.
Thank you. And I meet all the leaders, so the next time I meet Councillor Jeffrey, I'll also raise it to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. So the final question on this report is, in the district updates at the end of the report, it appears that Kirklees seems to have reported on a significant higher level of activity than any other districts. I live in Kirklees, very happy to see that. It's noted that Kirklees has seen a much more significant decline in KSIs than most districts too. Is this a coincidence?
It's very hard to say, but I think from a professional assumption point of view, you're right. So I've certainly been impressed with the local leadership in Kirklees around the Vision Zero activity. Certainly their MPTs are very focused. They're dedicating now between 8 and 10 days a month to Vision Zero activity. There's been really good partnership investment around some of the speed enforcement devices. And it does appear that that overarching picture, which is quite evident in the report, is resulting in a reduction. Kirklees has been very busy over the last year with a number of high-profile and challenging policing issues, outside of roads policing, which of course brings with it associated resource. So there could well be a cause and effect thing happening there. But I think I can't give any scientific answer to the question. But yes, there's a really good level of buy-in and activity from Kirklees district, and it does seem to be manifesting in some good positive signs around the KSI figures.
Yeah, and it's something definitely for me to raise at the board, because obviously if we've got good practice there and it's leading to some really good outcomes, there might be some learning for the other districts, so it's good to share.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you. So we'll move on then to neighbourhood policing and antisocial behaviour.
Can I just let these two go,
Yes,
if
of
that's
course.
all right?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it you, Ben?
It is, yes.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'll dive straight into the question. So I note the detail in the report around core NPT numbers and the current workload. How are you measuring your satisfaction with volume of work against public satisfaction in neighbourhood policing?
We have a crime allocation force that was launched at the start of October. That was the result of some detailed analysis, so it's appropriate to the role type of neighbourhood policing. So we try and focus the crime types that are allocated to MPT officers on antisocial behaviour offences, the proxy offences linked to those, as well as offences that we think are a good indication of the opportunity for early intervention to future harm to children. So that might include the production of youth, sexual images, or possession of drugs and weapons in schools, for example. Really good points of intervention. And they link in then for us the opportunity for partnership-based problem solving. So that's how we do them. We routinely monitor the workload volumes, are providing reassurance board, and to complement the volume of crime investigations we're giving neighbourhood police officers. The last few months I've started to develop tools to understand the volume of high intensity and high visibility targeted patrols, and also community engagement work that will help balance off our understanding of the holistic workload of a neighbourhood officer. It's going to be important we keep them focused as we move forward, particularly through the neighbourhood policing guarantee and that's implementation. So we keep that open with that crime allocation policy. It's entirely our policy and we're really confident in it, but at the same time we're not afraid to change it if the circumstances change and we think we're not getting the right performance out of neighbourhood policing, or if the national discussions that are underway about what local policing will look like evolve to give us more clear direction for standardisation across the region and the country. So I'm confident what we're doing.
Oh well, time will tell,
Yeah.
and so will the data. Thank you. So question 2 is on those proxy offences. So proxy ASB offences are mentioned in the report. Please can you explain more about what crime types these are and why have neighbourhood teams been able to improve outcomes? Is this due to an increase in staff, improved investigations or something else?
So the ASB proxy offences were first detailed to us in the summer surge document, which was a real momentum builder for the neighbourhood policing guarantee. And they are, I use the term sort of fabric offences, the everyday things that people might walk past and find frustration with but don't feel to challenge. It could be the smell of cannabis, or it could be a damaged bush shelter, something like that. And we monitor them, even though they're not the core output measures for neighbourhood police, and we monitor them because they're the granular things that really annoy people and then build towards the greater level or more serious offending. So it's a little bit like the broken windows theory, really. If we look after the little things, the big things won't develop. The challenge with all those offences are there can be some things that are different, and some of them can be entirely reactive reports to the public, and some of them can be things that officers encounter themselves. So over the winter, for example, what we've seen is because we've increased the amount of foot patrol, the officers are encountering people shouting and swearing more frequently, and so they're challenging it and dealing with it either by out of court or through arrest. But if we weren't patrolling there, or we weren't walking the streets and reacting to people being told, oh, there's someone doing drugs or dealing drugs around the corner, we might not be uncovering those offences. So they're a very helpful tool for me in terms of analysing the outputs of neighbourhood policing, but also the level of threat that we're dealing with. We continue to monitor them throughout the summer surge, the winter of action, and in between as well. The other thing they're really helpful for is understanding the impact of environmental ASB, because again, with that broken windows theory, if we're starting to see a cluster of this offence type happening, it's important for us then to be working with partners and local authority in particular, mainly street cleansing and housing elements, to get in there and try and address the issue on a more long-term basis. That's why we use them.
Thank you. I did go to Elland. I told them I'd speak about Elland in this meeting, and they said that they'd be watching the people who came around with us. And we did see some of that work with Craig, the local inspector, and yeah, I think members of the public were really surprised about the breadth of work that was going on at neighbourhood level.
That's great.
So I promised to go back. Yeah, they were really pleased to see us, and really pleased about all the work that's going on, because obviously they can't see it always, but it was a really good opportunity to tell them what was happening, and yeah, they were really pleased.
Thank you.
So the final question on this page, though, is that there's been an impressive number of engagement opportunities through which West Yorkshire Police has reached large numbers of people. And obviously, summer surge, now your winter surge, two just examples. Could you please talk these through in more detail? And are you currently joined up with VCSE enterprise partners, for example, or services that support victims and survivors?
So since I started in role as the ASB lead, I've been really keen to try and channel people's efforts into what we truly mean by engagement. And I think sometimes some of our frontline staff have blurred the boundaries of that definition into things like interaction and just visibility. And engagement for me is a more lasting relationship that actually should be crime or ASB focused, with the intention of it being crime prevention and crime reduction. so that the public can support the overall objectives of policing fundamentally. What I've done, and at the next meeting there'll be a paper prepared for you that starts to show how we started to quantify and map the amount of engagement that's been taking place. And we can do that by geography, by audience size, by communities of identity, but also get an understanding. It's nice to hear that, but at the same time distracting, isn't it?
Visible policing, or audible policing.
Yeah. At the same time, the themes that the public are talking with us about, and my hope was that it would work side on side with the Your View survey to really understand what we need to be talking about. Now, I can do that for some of the governance and policy perspective for West Yorkshire Police, but what I try not to do is to stand on the toes of the local policing leads who are delivering that in and out. And I do know that they do have different contact points and different meetings with different elements of the voluntary and community sector. But I'm not being prescriptive about it because locality matters, and those different groups will have different volumes and different voices that need to be heard. And so we encourage that to happen, but we are mapping against the partners that we're working with in that engagement process too. It's only a month old, so by the time it comes to here, it could be 2 or 3 months worth of data, but it'll start to qualify not only the volume of work we're doing, but also the gap analysis, and that'll be really important to make sure that we don't have postcode lottery we're trying to eradicate.
And I think we share the Your Views data with you, well we will do when we get the full data set.
I saw the initial snapshot of it, but when I saw it, and that was on the meeting that I think you actually chaired it, didn't you, when it was the CSP leads, CSP leads meeting, it just made me think, how can we work to make sure that what the public are saying in the anonymous surveys are important, are the themes that we're actually going out there and talking to, and then informing the staff so they can give informed engagement and advice. So that's just building, and we're still working on it at the moment.
Yeah, well, I look forward to getting that data set once it's more mature. Okay. And obviously, a really good example is your safety travel teams have been all over Leeds and Huddersfield.
And I've specifically got the measurement for them as well, because I thought you'd be interested.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, looking forward to getting all that data. Brilliant. Thank you very much. We'll move on to neighbourhood crime then. Question 1, there are some fantastic reductions in crime to reflect on and increase victim satisfaction in the neighbourhood crime arena, which obviously is brilliant. Please can you talk more about the increases in the theft of motor vehicle and the district differences, including any patterns and trends in offending?
So I think when we isolate the offensive theft of motor vehicle, it has to be set in the context of the wider, more positive improvements we've seen across the board in those other crime types that are reported in the paper. What we've seen with the performance of theft of motor vehicle is that since the original baseline date in 2019, we did see an increase, but we started to push that down. The challenge with theft of motor vehicle offences is that a lot of it relies on the design of the vehicles and the technological improvement manufacturers are making, and their ability to stay ahead of the criminal curve. When the criminals catch up, we can start to see an increase in theft of motor vehicle. That has probably peaked a couple of years ago, and we're starting to see it come down. And the way we've done that is by not only understanding the design issues of the vehicles, but also the criminal market that's interested in it. So we're seeing a very specific trend in exporting stolen vehicles and in locally dismantling vehicles to sell the parts on. And in the last 2 weeks, I'm going from memory now, I think Bradford and Calderdale had 2 really significant cutting shop lockups and seizures there. So it shows we can make an inroad in it. That work's been supported by DCI Michael Cox, who set up a force-wide threat meeting covering theft of motor vehicle and burglary at the same time, because sometimes they come hand in hand. And that's allowing us to focus on where the intelligence is saying are the most prolific offenders. Where those prolific offenders are can relate to sometimes some variations between the different districts, but actually it's where the victims of those theft of motor vehicle offences can be, because the desires of the criminal are largely based around the more high performance vehicles, and that's where you tend to get pockets of wealth. So depending on where the wealth is in the county, or where it's more concentrated, you're going to see a little bit more of that offending type, and that's where we're trying to focus our resource and trying to understand that now.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I've been to a few of the chop shops when they've been found by the police, and they've been investigated. Yeah. It's amazing. And I was really glad that ghost plates were in the new roads strategy, because I'd gone to Bradford, met the inspector there, and he'd told me a lot about what was happening there with ghost plays, and we'd raised that then with the NPCC, so by the APCC, so I was really pleased to see that that was included. I'm not suggesting that I was responsible, but it was really nice to see the link between neighbourhood policing, raising that as a concern, and then it coming through the road strategy. So hopefully we'll start to see some policy coming through that supports policing. Thank you. The report highlights some great district-based examples which have contributed to the reductions in personal robbery and theft from a person. Please can you share some of the West Yorkshire-wide learning leading to the positive results, including any understanding around the core perpetrators and items stolen?
The interesting thing that since this paper was submitted is that we understand from the engagement that actually the level of personal vigilance of the public has increased, which is really welcoming because it shows actually there's an active crime prevention mindset. Do I walk through the well-lit area and take 2 or 3 more minutes walking, or do I go through the shortcut that's poorly lit and go through the well-lit area? So that actually helps reduce it. One of the things that we've been able to do to support that, though, is by the use of the Home Officing funding initiatives, primarily around GemLock and the hotspot analysis, because the personal robbery and then theft from person is a less invasive form of that act of theft of personal property is linked to violent crime. And so actually by increasing presence in the same areas, we're seeing an overall reduction in offending generally, which is really, really positive. So that's been helpful in terms of the prevention and sometimes the apprehension of offenders. But then also we put a significant amount of work into improving investigation outcomes. And the investigations review process is designed to try and understand elements of process that we think officers need some more support and development with, as well as give individual bits of feedback on their own investigative skills, but just as important, the positive encouragement to keep going, because there is some fantastic investigation taking place. And by doing that, it's building up some momentum towards improving our outcomes and reducing crime at the same time. So that's I say it's not a secret, it's just the recipe really, there's no secret to it.
Yeah, and obviously we can get some of these mobile phone operators on board about how to prevent things like mobile phones being stolen, which obviously are very popular out there amongst thieves.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
yes, they are.
Thanks very much. Can you elaborate more on the duty to notify and your protection of vulnerable victims, sharing some key real-life examples of how the duty is being used to safeguard and protect those vulnerable people?
So when we have victims of modern slavery and human trafficking, whenever we've got a child victim, it's a duty on us to make the referral through the national referral mechanism process. However, with an adult, we need their consent to share the information into the referral mechanism. The duty to notify comes around where actually the adult who's the victim of modern slavery and human trafficking doesn't want to participate in the policing process. That can be for a wide number of reasons. It may just be they don't want a criminal justice outcome, they just want to be out of the lifestyle and the oppressive lifestyle that they're trapped in. So the duty to notify comes from us where they can come from partners, so we get very little information, or it can be things we're made aware of. And what we do is we just treat it as any other crime report and investigate it fully. And that allows us sometimes to move towards prosecution, but very challenging without a victim, but at the very least build the intelligence picture. And the maximising of intelligence means we've got better opportunities to intervene with other syndicates that are in play, or other organised crime groups that are working. But then also, by doing so, sometimes build the confidence of other victims to start taking part in the criminal justice process. We will also work with our duty to notify with other external agencies who can deal with the wider issues experienced by the victim. Some recent examples would include a vulnerable female who suffered exploitation through cuckooing, who didn't want to engage with the police but did with partner agencies who were able to relocate it to a safe part of the country out of the reach of exploiters, which is really helpful for us. We can unpick the story to develop the intelligence there. There's a high volume of investigations sitting with the force modern slavery and human trafficking team that involve sexual exploitation of females, and for the reasons I've touched on, sometimes the victims don't want to engage with the criminal justice process and police, but they want to be safer. So our partners can support that, and the public safety is not just a policing responsibility, it's holistic to all the public sector, so everyone's getting involved to try and make those victims safer and prevent any more people falling into the trap of those gangs.
Thank you. Then really picking up from the conversation with ACC Jones, our draft series filing strategy, as you know, it's being developed as we speak, and just thought that the performance of the hotspot areas was definitely something to celebrate. As ACC Jones pointed out, I think it was a 9.1% reduction in all crime areas, across all active hotspots. We obviously want to see more of that, but we also want to tell the public about that. So how we engaging with people in these areas, and how do we help them to understand the additionality and positive impact that can hopefully then help them to fear serious violence less.
I think the success here, it shows the value of having more police officers out on the street who the public can see, and I don't think any of us would turn down the opportunity to have more of them, and the work that we'll be doing as part of the neighbourhood policing guarantee will try and maximise that visibility. We do need to share the successes a lot more because it will help raise public trust and confidence, and the Genlock team do that themselves when they're out there. It's not purely an enforcement operation, it's an engagement operation too, to make sure people aren't just safe but feel safe, and included in that is some work with local authority-led groups, often sometimes community-led groups as well, to try and boost the public understanding about what we're doing and how we're doing it. There's an internal communication strategy that helps to support the neighbourhood policing teams that I help to develop, to put the information to people's hands through the engagement that I'll be able to brief in next time for you as well, which is key. And then also there's the external press statements. So Genlock in itself and the violence reduction unit is very good at publicising its work and its reductions in serious violence, most serious violence and knife-enabled robbery. I've been discussing with the Director of Communications today about how we can actually develop a press and communication strategy focusing more on the high visibility of policing just generally, particularly aligned to neighbourhood policing guarantee, because we need to make sure that our comms are a little bit more reactive, a little bit more frequent and a little bit more localised as well. So it would be nice if we can get the stories out much quicker, and I've set up a process to try and support them in doing that as well. So there's
an opportunity to work with Andy and our team, because you know we've got massive social media following, and we've got quite a lot of resources too, so we could just share some resources and some messaging, can't we?
What I've discussed with Faye from Communications, but also the local policing leads, is the data sets we're creating around engagement and high visibility activities and enforcement actions. We can summarise them to local councillors on a ward basis, MPs on their constituency basis, but also with Wicker on a West Yorkshire basis, because actually the shared story is a shared success. And also you ambassadors for our good work as well as holding us to account.
Absolutely, and when the councils want information, they come to us. And I was just in Leeds City Council the other week, and Tracy was I think she was in Kirklees, so we're offering at speaking at council, we're speaking in their political groups, individuals invite us to areas, so the two councillors in Elland invited me, and they always come to us for that data, so we can provide your data and you give it to us. So I mean, I know we can ask for things, but if you want to
we'll find ways of sharing it more frequently.
Yeah, absolutely, and then we can send it to them on a regular basis, because they do ask us quite a lot, so as well as the public, of course.
Yeah.
That's good, thank you. So I think you're not here for business crime. No, it's for us. Thanks very much. Yeah, you can stay or works up to you.
I'll stay.
So thank you for this paper. I think it's been a couple of years since we've had a business crime paper, and it's really good to see that we've turned a curve from the last time we had this paper. On page 1, the report discusses the use of facial recognition software and mentions the use of best practice guidance. Can you give more detail on this to provide reassurance to the public that facial recognition software is used proportionately and with suitable privacy safeguards in place? Notwithstanding, it's not all our software, it's not all your software, is it? Some of it's the retailers.
It's a bit beyond my skill set to do it, but yeah, of course. The main thing is underpinned by the principles of the Human Rights Act and European Convention of Human Rights contained therein. So it's on the principles of plain, proportionate, legal, accountable, necessary and ethical. What that means is that it's authorised in very much the same way any proactive police power is authorised. So a senior police officer at gold level, so that's Chief Superintendent above, has to authorise its deployment under any means. Its use has to be targeted, so it has to be targeted for a specific area or for a specific event. So we used it for the Manchester United v Leeds United game, for instance, because that's a high-risk football match. And then the database that is used at those events is linked to those events and that purpose. So it can't just be a fishing expedition for anyone who happens to be wanted. But people on those lists tend to be the nastier people that we don't want at those events, or we don't want in that public space because we know they will cause problem or a danger to the public. the machine doesn't make the decision of what the police do. That's still down to a police officer. The machine is, in effect, a lifetime piece of police intelligence. So if someone is identified by the technology, that still needs to be verified by a human being that has to check identification as best as they can, including mobile biometrics. But ultimately, we need to be absolutely sure that the machine is correct, and then any decision is taken by a human being. We fully comply with the data protection laws, because we can't deploy it if we don't, and we use data protection impact assessments for each deployment, and we follow the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office guidance. Transparency is really important as well. We have to, by law and ethical practice, we have to tell people that facial recognition is going to be deployed in an area. This is a live facial recognition. So we put clear signage at any deployment sites, we publish information online, we tell people in advance, and in particular for football matches and events like that. That's part of the point. It's a bit of a deterrent. If someone is going to cause trouble and they know that live facial recognition is there, what we're hoping is that people won't then attend, and then we prevent crime as well as detecting it.
Thank you. And it's worth saying, of course, that retail establishments more and more are also using live facial recognition, which has got nothing to do with the police, and you don't have any say over how it's governed or how it's used. And it can be wrong, of course, because we've seen some public examples of that. So the next question is the November High Street crime update finishes with a recommendation to make further efforts to ensure levels of reported offending are as close as possible to actual offending. Can you explain what actions you are taking to increase reporting of shoplifting offences, particularly in independent retailers who we understand are really vulnerable?
Definitely. The independent retailers are the kind of key concern here. They're small, they're more vulnerable, and they're less likely to have the infrastructure in order to report things on a systemic level. However, we initially launched a collaborative reporting campaign with the Bradford bid, and this encourages retailers to report all non-emergency incidents, including shoplift via 101 or an online portal. It highlights that without a crime reference number, then we can't take any police action, and it includes distribution of leaflets and promotional visits to stores as well to kind of push that. Other bids have been launched, such as Huddersfield, Ilkley, Keighley, Leeds and Wakefield. Similarly, collaborating with the West Yorkshire Police's business crime prevention officers to boost the reporting rates and provide tailored crime prevention advice. And one of the things we would say is people who steal from retail premises very often commit other offences as well, so it's a public safety thing. We want to see these reported, we want to take positive action. Linked to the reporting campaigns, we have dedicated plainclothes and high visibility patrols, particularly across Huddersfield and Kirklees as part of Safer Streets and Business Action Week. These patrols observe thefts in progress and then make on-site interventions, gather intelligence and reassure retailers. There's also something that the Kirklees in particular do, which is the investigative follow-up to make sure we get the convictions, we get the positive outcomes afterwards. We also have high visibility patrols to complement those undercover efforts, so we reinforce the message that shoplifting will be addressed properly and publicly. And then we've also, as part of our undercover operations, to go back to that, we've deployed smart water forensic spray. So it's offered for independent retailers in hotspots like Huddersfield and Bradford, and the deterrent technology allows stolen goods to be traced back to the store and offenders traced as well. As well as that, we have long-standing initiatives around crime prevention advice in terms of target hardening, particularly for independent retailers, and resources such as the community alert registration and business crime reduction partnerships that help retailers stay informed. And again, the other thing is we have a dedicated report theft form that just improves reporting accessibility. So we're doing everything we can to make it as easy as possible for independent retailers with busy people and all retailers to report it to us. And then we're doing an awful lot to encourage those retailers to report it to us as well.
And do you think that these independent retailers appreciate the efforts? Are getting a good feedback?
Certainly the initial feedback, yeah, they're welcome. I mean, they're welcome, as Ben said before, seeing visible police officers and the undercover police officers as well. Once they know that So I've got no formal feedback that I can share with you, but I am aware that the general feedback around high visibility policing in our shopping centres and areas of retail is well.
Yeah, and of course the winter surge and the summer surge are both focused on town centres, so obviously high retail footfall there.
You'll have a winter of action report in the next com paper, Tax and Neighbour Policing, and I'll be writing it at the moment.
Yeah, thank you. On other offences caused by shoplifters, it's really good to see the decrease in assaults on retail employees by more than 24%. But do you think this is an actual decrease, or is it actually that less people are reported?
I think we have to acknowledge that there is a risk of underreporting, and we always acknowledge that. We don't take for granted any reductions. We try and make sure we've got full context and supporting evidence around it. However, one thing that really does indicate that we are seeing a genuine reduction is a reduction in the number of multiple suspects that we have outstanding. So one symptom of retail thieves, for want of a better word, but people who do engage in shoplifting, they do it quite often, and so they can build up a series of offences quite quickly. We've had, as well as over a 30% decrease in our outstanding suspects, we've got a huge decrease in our multiple suspects, so it's less than 1% of our outstanding suspects are currently wanted for 3 or more offences, which is how we define multiple suspects. The majority of those that were previously outstanding were involved in retail theft. We've seen that bigger decrease in that and an increase in those being brought to justice. That we're quite confident that there is it might not, the 24% might be a couple of percentage points here or there, but we're quite confident that there's a genuine, sustained and significant decrease in assaults linked to retail theft.
Yeah, and there's also been a change in the legislation, so maybe that's serving to...
It's linked to our crime allocation policy as well, Deputy Mayor, so they do go through to the dedicated district investigation teams now as well.
That's reassuring, thank you. Under risk assessment, you state that all district MPTs have a good relationship with retailers and business improvement districts. And obviously I see that because I go around and with neighbourhood policing teams and I visit bids and city centres, etc. Can you share more, really, for the public, how your NPTs build and maintain those partnerships and whether any practical outcomes have come from any of those partnerships?
Yes, I can. I mean, the biggest thing is the regular engagement. You really can't beat that. The better visibility through the bid meetings and the forums, and it's consistent attendance and consistent visibility of our neighbourhood teams and around there. It's also the trusting and sharing of information that we share with our retailers, so sharing crime trends, both in terms of hotspot areas and what those crimes are like, what's the modus operandi of the offenders, hotspot analysis and operational updates as well, so we don't just have our successes, we share our successes as well, because that builds reassurance. We listen to business concerns and agree our priorities jointly. We do joint problem solving, so we collaborate on initiatives such as Shop Watch, Business Watch and targeted patrols, and we use bid feedback to inform our beat plans and hotspot deployments, particularly with the neighbourhood uplift. And we support bid-led campaigns such as the report that I mentioned in answer to the last question. We've also got visible partnership, so we conduct high visibility patrols in bid areas during peak times, so that they can be reassured that we are listening to them. We deploy engagement vehicles for joint outreach and crime prevention advice, and again sharing positive outcomes on social media and through bid communication channels. And that's not just for reassurance, it's also for prevention, to let offenders know that we are doing this and let them know about the successes and the likelihood of them being caught. I talked about information sharing on the previous answer, but we provide timely updates on arrests, particularly for prolific shoplifters, and our enforcement activities. And again, we keep hammering home with crime prevention advice. We encourage businesses to register for community alert and share intelligence via secure channels. And then we do support bid initiatives, like we assist with budget-funded safety measures such as CCTV and smart water. And so one practical impact has been the spread of the use of smart water amongst retailers, and we participate in joint events and seasonal campaigns. That's the question.
Yeah, and I know they're not neighbourhood policing, but I regularly see servitor in high footfall areas like Trinity, for example. Over Christmas they were there quite a lot. Yeah, talking to people, so we're actually engaging, which was nice.
Yeah.
So I did speak to them. So the last question on this paper is about the different trends in the report. So, for example, Wakefield has seen a 22.7% reduction in total number compared to the previous quarter, whereas Kirklees has seen a nearly 19% increase. Just wondered if you had any idea why there was such a big difference between the two.
I might need to bring Ben in on that one.
Yeah, I know you like your data.
I think the difference in Wakefield is that we've got the increased use of the community safety accreditation scheme as well, which actually builds up the resilience to the local area to make sure that these issues don't happen. And the retailers linked to that are of even greater credibility and sophistication, so actually working with the store owners to make sure they're having non-permissive environments for crimes to take place, and that the staff feel supported. And particularly over December, it's important because with the giftware, particularly around perfume and females' clothing, for example, the female shop workers are at increased risk. So we tend to see that. I think it's just really what the different shop types are, and that's going to drive some of the data.
Yeah, and of course I know about the work that you've been doing in Leeds with female shop workers. I've been talking to, is it Maureen Hussain, Sergeant Hussain, about some of the work that she's been doing, and we're hoping to hold a round table with some of the businesses if we can get them all round the table.
Yeah.
So, thank you. So if we move on then to the fact, so I think that was all right. So move on to rural crime.
Yeah, that'll be me again.
Okay, so question 1 is on page 5. We're pleased to see the reductions in crime in rural areas of West Yorkshire. You record that 200 nuisance motorbikes have been seized. Can you please confirm what period does this cover, and do you see any links to a reduction in nuisance vehicle use in urban areas, and you successfully seize vehicles in rural areas?
Yes, the period first off is January 2025 to November 2025, and yeah, we do assess that every bike that we seize, whether it's rural or in an urban area, will have contributed to reductions of nuisance vehicles in the urban areas. So the period for the core reduction in 2025 compared to 2024 is maintained across all districts, and it's no doubt that targeted patrols and intelligence-led visits in 2025 has led to this reduction. So West Yorkshire Police have seized more bikes than last year, and in fact it's the highest total seizure since in 10 years, which is since we've started counting them.
But why do you think that is?
We've just got better at it. I think it's as simple as that. Better tactics, better trained people, more experienced people. People who get the off-road bike teams like the off-road bike teams and don't tend to.
We like the off-road bike teams a lot. The public love the off-road bike teams.
Yeah, but they really enjoy the job, and so you don't tend to see people moving out there. So you have that consistency of people. They get to know, get better at their trade. But we've also got, we've got to thank the public for this as well in terms of the better reporting, because people can see that the action is taken. They trust West Yorkshire Police to do something about it, and so we get the information that we can act upon, as well as good hotspot analysis as well. So it builds on the trends. People can see when a hotspot is built and they target it effectively. So again, Section 59 is issued last year, which is the seizure notice. That's the highest. So it's not a seizure notice; it's a notice for antisocial use of the vehicle. It's the highest we've had in the last 10 years as well. So the activity has really heated up last year, which was challenging for some of the off-road bike teams, but the challenges in the neighbourhood with grants and meeting that as well. So generally, yes, in answer to your question, we do think one does link to the other, and we're very happy with the performance of the off-road bike teams, particularly the challenges they've had, as they've had a really successful year. And again, I think it's due to the experience and the commitment of the officers on those teams.
Yeah, and I'd like to think that the Mayor's funding 3 years ago of some of those bikes and some of that training has really built up that resilience and maturity that's now giving those dividends. Yeah. So I'll tell her, she'll be very pleased. And I've got a full bike licence, so that's always my engagement when I go see the off-road bike team. But I was very surprised. Not that I'd get on a bike ever again, but. So again on page 5, we'd like to congratulate the officers who have recently received national recognition for their work on rural crime. Please can you tell us more about the ways in which West Yorkshire police officers have successfully taken action against hare courses and organised crime groups who steal farm equipment?
Yes, it can, and the first one, particularly around the hare coursing, it's underpinned by the specialist capability. So we have 21 trained rural and wildlife officers and 3 specialist forensic investigators who are focused on rural and wildlife crime. And the advanced training these officers have includes hare coursing modules, which I don't know a great deal about. I have to say it's not my particular area of expertise.
I talked to the PCC of Norfolk, so I know a little bit about it.
But that's via the NWCU Digital Academy. So we've got really well-trained staff, and then we've got led operations. So this links back to our analytical capability. So we do have rural hotspots and joint operations with neighbouring forces in these, we target patrols in these rural hotspots. And that tackles cross-border hare coursing and organised machinery theft. It's a feature of our geography and the type of offence that cross-border does feature. We've got good hotspot mapping and flagged intelligence to identify high-risk areas so we can react to it quickly. And then we've got the Rural Crime Tactical Coordination Group, which was established to oversee operations and intelligence sharing, which help us deploy. We've also got good use of technology, so as well as the deployment of old-fashioned technology like plainclothes and high visible officers during the peak times, we use ANPR to target vehicles, we use drones and trail cameras to track vehicles and offenders linked to hare course and inquisitive crime. And we have good enforcement under Section 59 of the Police Reform Act to seize nuisance vehicles that are causing crop damage and trespass, which links to the last question in terms of the role of use of off-road bikes. Again, we wouldn't get anywhere without community engagement. So our awareness campaigns around Rural Crime Action Week, I think it helps that rural communities don't like rural crime, so they're quite willing to engage with us, as well as we provide them with crime prevention advice and update on the actions we take. We've got national recognition for our forensic innovation, particularly around getting DNA analysis from human samples in and around hare coursing offences. And again, that links back to the specialist training. And we have an industry award for leadership in tackling large-scale theft of plants, including plant machines, quad bikes and farm equipment. And then we've expanded CCTV and ANPR coverage in rural areas to overcome some of the challenges linked to enforcing against OCGs who operate specifically in remote locations. Does that answer your question, Deputy?
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's really interesting for the public to understand the link between rural crime and organised crime groups, because I think people don't understand that often it is organised crime groups. Thank you. Members of the public are often concerned about the welfare of wildlife in West Yorkshire. Can you update us on any incidents of badger and fox persecution in our districts and your work to pursue offenders?
Yeah, I think I've covered some of this in the answer in the last question, but it's been built again on the specialist capability. But under Operation Molehill, we've prosecuted for 22 cases of badger and fox persecution in the reporting period. Again, we've got the advanced training of the Wildlife Crime Investigation Foundation gives our officers. This does cover badger crime and related wildlife offences. And the Wildlife and Rural Crime Team is one of the UK's leading badger protection, has one of the UK's leading badger protection officers. So we've got one of the experts working for us, which is always useful. I talked about the 3 dedicated forensic investigators we have who specialise in wildlife crime scenes and support prosecutions, and that includes badger baiting and fox persecution offences as well. And again, we have the innovative forensic techniques that allows us to get human DNA from these scenes as well, so which again is just as relevant there as it is for the hare course and the organised crime things we've already mentioned. We align actions with the NPCC Rural and Wildlife Crime Strategy. We prioritise offences against protected species, as well as collaborating with partners such as the RSPCA and the NFU and local authorities to ensure we've got some intelligence sharing, coordinated enforcement, and we all know what each others are doing so we can enhance everyone's effectiveness.
Thank you. And then the last question on this report is about the intelligence-led aspect of it. Can you remind the public of the best ways to report their concerns about rural offences? And just wondered if partner agencies within that rural crime space were members of the PIP, you know, the Partnership Intelligence Portal?
We've got, I think most of them are, but I can categorically say that every single one of them are, but we're always welcome for new partner agencies to come along to the Partnership Intelligence Portal, which is one of the better ways to share non-emergency information and non-urgent information. So if we have information about crime patterns or a particular area that they think is being targeted, this portal is great for us because we can pick it up and add it to our hotspot analysis. I suppose what I would say is, if it's an emergency, 999, whether it's rural or urban, is the right place to call it. It's an emergency. If it's a recent crime in action, which it counts as a non-emergency, it's something we want to get to relatively quickly, dial 101, or use the report offence on the online on the West Yorkshire Police website, because we have online reporting on there, and it's the same for wildlife crime as it would be for anything else. We've also got a joint community alert and farm watch, which people can sign up for, and I don't know if there's a facility to do it. I can share it with you too.
Oh yeah, because then we could put it out on our socials.
Yeah. And then we've got all the reporting lines for Crime Stoppers and report down anonymously any concerns people have in the area, so we can share that with your team.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Publish it really late, that'd be useful for us as well.
Absolutely, and I wonder if National Farming Union have got access to your portal, because I meet them from time to time, and one of the things they want is for rural crime officers to be members of their WhatsApp groups, and obviously for all sorts of reasons that's not always a good idea. So if they were members of they were able to access the partnership portal, then they could report on behalf of their members, couldn't they?
They definitely could. I couldn't answer you 100% if they were on there, but we would welcome them on there. So we would take that away as an action to follow.
Brilliant, thank you. So we didn't have any more questions on the rural crime paper. So so that's the end of the papers. Thank you very much. We move on then to item 11, which is future agenda items. So for the next the theme will be supporting victims and witnesses, and we're going to have a paper on drugs and alcohol. And obviously we're really interested in dip sampling. I was recently in an APCC SOC meeting that talked about drugs and alcohol, and the link between domestic abuse and cocaine use was quite terrifying. The NPCC had done a piece of work, and 88% of those stopped for domestic abuse were tested, and they had cocaine in the system. So yeah, it just made me even more concerned that dip testing is something that we should be doing. And I know we are, it's just good to get the data. And then we've got safeguarding for adults, the strategic policing requirement, and supporting victims and witnesses. So hopefully you're all aware of that and on with the writing reports. Thank you. So under any other business, we have had a request from someone who, I don't know if they watch the com, but for a member of the public, about our use of AI. Obviously West Yorkshire Combined Authority have fallen foul of the use of AI in recent weeks, and there's been some national interest in AI, and I think the white paper that came out yesterday has got a whole section on setting up a centre of excellence for AI, but we've had also some negative publicity about policing in other parts of the country, and even though we've had private conversations about the policies that we've got in West Yorkshire, the processes, the fact that ChatGPT is completely banned in West Yorkshire, I felt it would be useful for us to have a dedicated paper at the next com to give reassurance to the public about how we use AI. In fact, we don't use it to make decisions, only human beings make decisions, but I suppose the life cycle of AI, how do we use it, where do we get that information from, do we use open source, for example, those kinds of things to give that reassurance.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, and we've also got an exception paper on online harms, but it might be that one, yeah, we'll have a conversation outside of the meeting, because I think AI is definitely of equal importance to the public, and we might want to talk about online harms in another forum and then bring it here later on. So we'll discuss that outside of the meeting. Thanks very much. So any other business?
No, thank you.
So our next meeting is the 28th of April, 2:30 till 4:30. Thank you very much everyone for your attendance. If you're interested and want to suggest any questions for the themes that have been outlined for the next meeting, please send them in to the Mayor's office and we'll be really happy to consider them. Thank you.